I'm worried that there could be another cost bubble. You know, that we could see inflation starting to pick up.
Electricity is becoming in short supply, and you're seeing increases all over the world. Oil, obviously, is a problem in itself. Where it's sitting, it's high, and we need to look at that. And the cost of labour around the world.
You know, all of the commodities have moved up, and one worries whether there's going to be a flow-through effect onto all of our input costs. But if we can eat into some of that inflation going forward, get a little bit of extra productivity, drive some efficiencies, you know, a combination of all these things, you know, can keep these operations from sliding quicker than would otherwise be the case.
And we've also got this issue of energy costs going up. What are you doing to cut down on your energy?
14% less usage today than what we had 3 years ago when we had the Eskom crisis. And what we're looking to do is then re-engineer from here forward how we operate the mines. Compressed air makes up about 20% of our offtake of electricity. We are not using most of that compressed air, and there's a lot of wastage. Can we come up with a different regime? Can we come up with standalone hydraulic drill rigs that don't rely on compressed air? Even though they might be electricity driven, they're going to use a lot less electricity than compressed air does. And we're looking at doing trials over the balance of this year and into next year and seeing what we're going to do there. You know, so that for me is an exciting initiative. Also on pumping, you know, are there ways of reducing the pumping cost by re-looking at the entire architecture of how we pump water? You know, can we shorten the circuit? Because the less you have to pump, or the less of the distance you have to pump, the height you have to pump, the less the cost. Now those two alone make up 40% of our electricity bill. So let's attack the two big items and see how we can re-engineer. And I'm sure we can find some more savings there over the next, it's going to take longer, over the next 3 years or so.
In the meantime, you're going to pay 200 million rand more for your electricity in the next quarter. Is the winter tariff playing into that? And what do you pay per quarter for electricity? And you say 200 million on top of that.
Well, we're paying around about, at the moment, about 2.5 billion rand a year. You know, so what Paul was talking about is the seasonal fluctuations. You know, electricity makes up about 14–15% of our costs, but there is about a 50% delta between the winter season tariffs and the summer season. And then what he was getting at is on top of that, you've had the increase now kick in, and you've got winter tariffs. So you're seeing the combined effect of those two factors impacting our costs over next quarter. You know, so the imperative for us to reduce our utility offtake is even more pronounced than ever before. So there are various demand side projects that we're putting in place with Eskom, whereby they will co-fund with us certain of the projects where we can reduce peak demand, help them, and that also helps us to move some of our utilization into the lower tariff period, because you have different tariffs as well between peak demand and other periods. So if we can do that, that can also help. So we're optimistic that we can do further reductions, or rather generate further reductions. And it's going to take 3 years, in my view, to see a similar reduction than what we've seen, you know, between 10 and 15% over the next 3 years compared to the 14% we've achieved over the last 3 years.
Yeah, you have 45,000 people. What sort of productivity are you looking for?
Natural attrition will continue. You know, natural attrition can be anything between, you know, 100 and 200 a month on average. Productivity, if you look in the book, we're trying to get an extra 5 to 10% improvement in our face advance, and see whether we can generate further value there. Now, an extra 10% face advance would potentially mean 10% extra volume. And if we can get some extra volume with the same people, that will certainly help us. Now, that's an objective. I'm not saying you're going to see it next quarter. It's going to take time. So 5 to 10%, you know, that's gold that you paid for. It doesn't cost you anything more. All the costs are in the system. The utilities are in the system. People are in the system. The overheads are in the system. We've also got to drive to improve the overall quality of the portfolio. there's no doubt that the projects that we're looking at into the future all have the potential to lower the overall cost of the portfolio. And that's going to be important because, you know, gold is $1,500 today, and I'm still optimistic that gold can certainly hold up where it is. But over the longer term, you know, you are going to get volatility. And we want to make sure that our portfolio is defensive against that. So getting more out of the existing assets, optimize the existing assets, improve the margin per ounce anyway. But then over the longer term, make the portfolio more defensive.
Donate now and give 15 Rand a month. SMS JOIN to 41486.